thank you all for coming tonight. I'll tell you that the size of the crowd is overwhelming. And Councilman Viera and I were joking, it's a crowd because of our social media post or his video that he did. But regardless, we appreciate everybody coming out. And there's nothing more important than concerns. And I want to hear, we want to spend most of the time hearing from you all, so we won't take much time up here. But right away, I want to set everybody's eases at concerns is there's no indications that any of these incidents are random. And in fact, the majority of the ones that we're looking into are from people that aren't even in this area. We announced today that we made an arrest on a homicide that was a little bit south of here. And we are actually in the process right now of making an arrest on the one that happened at the Metro Storage on Donna Michelle. So I can tell you that the detectives are working feverishly day in and day out to make these arrests and hold these individuals that are coming into our city committing these violent crimes. So with me today, obviously, who needs no introduction, is Councilman Viera. Also to my right is Deputy Chief Johnson, and next to him is Major Pat Messmer, and next to Councilman Viera is Captain Matt Kamat, who is the sector commander for this area. So I'm going to hand the mic off to Councilman Viera. Then I'll give some overviews and remarks, and then we'll open up the floor for questions. So, Councilman Viera.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you so much, sir. And it's a real pleasure to have everybody here today. Actually, it's not a pleasure. It's a pleasure to have you all here, but we're here for something very, very sad, for a tragedy that happened here in New Tampa 33647. And it's something that, calls us all to action. And we're all here tonight because we want to hear from our law enforcement. We want to hear from our community leaders. And it's good to see everybody here tonight under very unfortunate circumstances. I see a lot of good folks in the audience. I wanted to just very briefly, if I may, acknowledge elected officials and elected officials' offices. I know the office of State Senator Jay Collins is here. He's our state senator out here in the Tampa Palms area. I saw the office of Congresswoman Laurel Lee is here. I know former state attorney Andrew Warren I saw is somewhere there. I saw him there. The office of our state representative Fentress Driscoll is here. I see Mr. Reedy here with the office of Commissioner Ken Hagan. I see our good friend, our next door neighbor, Mayor Andy Ross, who's here. Always a pleasure to have you, sir. I know he doesn't like this, but I don't care. Former State Senator Tom Lee is here. A good guy. I love him to death. Even though we disagree on politics, he's a good friend of mine. I like him a lot. We have here, I know John Bennett, the Chief of Staff for Mayor Castor, is coming. And I also saw, where is he? Judge Matt Smith. Good to see you, sir. Did I miss any other elected officials or elected officials' offices? Okay. Very good. Okay. So again, we're here to listen to y'all. I'm not going to talk. I could talk for a while, as y'all who know me know that I could. But what I can tell y'all is from the list that you saw here, these are all people that we reached out to. And you're going to see on this list, there are Republicans, there are Democrats on this list when it comes to public safety. Just like by the way, when it should come to all issues, right? It's not partisan. You don't have to be a Republican or a Democrat to be affected by violent crime. Here in Hillsborough County, thank God, we work together in spite of our differences on core common issues that pertain to you when it comes to public safety. So that's what we're here for. So I'll hand back the microphone to Chief Bercaw, and I thank him again for all of his wonderful leadership. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilman Viera. So I'm sure the first question on everybody's mind is, we actually scheduled this on Saturday morning, and in fact, what's happened since then, I'm sure everybody's seen in the news the homicide involving the rapper from Jacksonville. That was at the Home 2 Suites or Holiday Inn over off McKinley Drive. And what we've already released, and I've told the media, is exactly what I'll tell you. As far as everybody in that area, all indications are that they're from Jacksonville and not from this area. And again, that was a targeted attack. I'm working very closely with the Jacksonville Sheriff. I spoke to him today. I've spoken to the statewide prosecutor. I've spoken to our prosecutor. I've spoken to the FBI and the ATF, and everybody is working together to ensure that we can make an arrest and hold those accountable that are coming into our city and committing these violent crimes. What's important to us in solving these cases is the community's help and support. If anybody were to have any video or any information, whether it's firsthand or secondhand, even how minute, it could help us. And it could help us from reasonable suspicion or obtaining probable cause for an arrest, or even after the arrest, getting a conviction. So if anybody has information, please don't hesitate to share it. What's more important is addressing your concerns, and we want to allow the most time for that. Having strong relationships is what solves crimes and prevents crimes. And in New Tampa, we have very strong relationships with our Neighborhood Watch. There's 3 very strong Neighborhood Watch groups in here. And I would just put out to anybody that is not involved in Neighborhood Watch, please see us afterwards, and we will get you engaged in any one of the Neighborhood Watch groups that may be closest to your area. But I can tell you that I do have 3 very active Neighborhood Watch groups in New Tampa. So as far as what we'd like to do is we'd like to hear from everybody, and obviously we don't have all night. So we'd like to limit the comments to 2 minutes, and we'll have everybody line up. We have Officer Plummer up here. We'll give you a 30-second heads up that you're going to your 2 minutes, but if everybody could be responsible for everybody's time, so we could hear from the majority of everybody in here. And this is not the end, this is just the beginning. Up on our screen, you'll see here that we have some QR codes that are flashing. These are contacts for the officers that are in your area, the supervisors that are in your area, our community outreach. So please take that information. If there's something that you wanted to say and you didn't have time, these QR contacts could list you to our portal, and you could actually submit that information online as well. So without further ado, do you just want to start lining up? Yeah, if you could start lining up, and Officer Plummer here will give you guys their 2-minute heads up. Yes, sir. You're ready.
Hey, my name's Dave Coleman. You've seen me before. I watched City Hall where that shot spotter was approved, so you're going to have that program. Would you ever consider using that up here, or is that only for East Tampa? And then I have another question. It was my bank on Viera Avenue, and there was a report that I saw on the news. It was so cursory. It was such a short report. There was a body who found a shooting victim in the parking lot of my bank, and then I could get no more information. Why is information, is it that you didn't have any? Is the news not reporting it? I've been trying for 3 days to find out what that was all about and how it was connected to this, what's going on here. Thanks.
Sure. Major Pat Messmer is our division commander over homicides, and I'll let him answer that question specifically. But Janae, do we have the QR code for our media releases up here? So please take that and sign up for it, because basically every time we put out a media alert, it'll come to your email and you'll see that. And all I ask is that sometimes there's information we can't share because it's part of an active investigation that could help us in making the arrest. But whatever we can share, we'll put on that media alert. If not, you can reach out to me or any of the commanders in the area, and we'll answer what we can, as long as it doesn't compromise us in the ability of making the arrest. And if you wanted to talk about that, how we got it.
Yeah, and I'm not sure specifically if you're referring to the vehicle that was on Bears Avenue that had a gunshot in there. That was related to what happened up at the Portofino Apartments. That was the same vehicle involved. That was not a body behind a bank on Bears Avenue. That was actually the driver of the vehicle who was involved in the homicide that occurred at Portofino Apartments. Was driving, basically trying to drive to the hospital, and he ended up calling 911 and stopping on Bears Avenue. There was no body behind a bank on Bears Avenue. So that's all I'm familiar with Bears Avenue. If there was a body behind a bank on Bears Avenue, that would have to be directed to the sheriff's office. There's not any part of Bears Avenue that's in the city of Tampa's jurisdiction, so that would basically have to be directed to them. But any gunshot wound victims who were stopped on Bears Avenue, that was related to that, and I believe that was included in our media alert that we put out. As to ShotSpotter, unfortunately, it's a great system. Unfortunately, it's pretty expensive, and we use data to determine where we're going to put the ShotSpotter system. It basically is a system that can detect gunfire through a bunch of different microphones that are placed around a specific radius. So unfortunately, the East Tampa area has a ton of gunfire. That is where the bulk of our violent crime is. This was an anomaly, what's happened up in New Tampa. And just to give everybody a bit of, a bit of data, only about 17% of the shots that are fired in our ShotSpotter area have a corresponding 911 call. In other places where we don't see a lot of gunshots, where we don't see a lot of violent crime, practically every time gunshots are heard, somebody calls 911. So one of the main things for ShotSpotter is to get the officers on scene for places to try to make contact with victims, save victims before there's a corresponding 911 call, because a lot of times there's not. We've had people who were shot laying out in the middle of the street, bleeding to death, and our officers get there. The only reason they get there is because of that ShotSpotter notification. They've saved lives because of that. None of the incidents that have happened up here have not had corresponding 911 calls. So we really have to look at the data. Where is the concentration of the shootings? Where do we have the most shootings in the city? And in those areas are where we put the ShotSpotter system. So right now we don't have any plans to expand that system anywhere else in the city. We do think it's having an impact on violent crime in that specific area, but at this point there's no plans to put it anywhere else at this point.
Okay. My name is Terry. I'm a 20-year resident in the New Tampa area. I'm a Hillsborough County public school teacher. I have concerns with my own kids and, of course, the safety of the children I teach. It is what I think about all the time. If my kid can go to the McDonald's and I can feel safe that they're going there, and clearly I don't feel that way at this point. I think one of my largest concerns when this all happened was the very first incident of the gentleman at Regents Park Drive. There's been no information. There was 2 banks on the corner. You can't tell me that there's no video, and you have to release something else to the public. Was it a drug related? Was it a family issue? Was it, what was the cause that this man got gunned down with multiple rounds of bullets, which has been already out in the public, it's been spoken about. How is someone get a gun like that and just broad daylight at 2:30 in the afternoon let the bullets rip? I'm not okay with that, and I need more information. And then to have it a couple days later, another incident, which again, no information about what transpired. Was it drug related? Because these are important to me as a community person. Are people just blatantly coming into my neighborhood and being okay with just shooting a broad daylight because they don't fear anything? Like, what is going on? Is it drugs? Are these people living in our neighborhood? Because drugs is money, right? So they could afford to live here. But what are we doing? And as a community, I'm not okay with that. Like, I'm just not okay with that. So I really want some more details about those specific incidents. When I moved here, Fowler and Fletcher was what it is. And you can clearly look, when you look at the statistic map, I said, I'm not going down there, right? I chose to live up here for a reason, and that's why I'm here, but I want it to stay that way, right? So, by the claps, I think we all want some more information, please.
Absolutely, and that's why we're here, is to understand your concerns and address your concerns. So the particular case you're talking about was investigated by the Sheriff's Office, and they're working closely with us and providing us with updates. I can tell you that the person that was shot in that case did not live here, was not from this area, and they've recovered a car, and they're working some very active leads and have some promising cases. Well, in this case, we can't say for sure if it's related to narcotics. There are some indications that it is, and again, as the investigation goes and unfolds, early indications are that that one is, and several others are. Not all of them, but yes, narcotics is a concern there. Narcotics is something very important. I don't know if you know, just recently, about 2 months ago, we released our Operation Overdrive, where we arrested 34 people on narcotic and gun-related crimes. And I think about 22 of them were charged federally. So we are going to hold people accountable for this. You're going to come to Tampa and you're going to do this type of crime, you're going to get caught, and you're going to get whatever the full extent of the law is. We'll go federal if we need to, or we'll go statewide, or we'll go local. We are in this together, and if there's any tips or anything that anybody has, please share it. Being in the know is something that's important to us. Before you leave, please take that QR code, sign up for media alerts, because you'll get them as soon as we send them out. So that's something that we've just started. And then in addition to that, if you're not involved in Neighborhood Watch, we'd love to speak
So
to you.
you'll keep us updated on as things come out, because I'm afraid that as the weeks pass, we're gonna go, so now we're talking about some rapper, but, you know, right now I'm worried about what's happening in my neighborhood, and, you know, he's from Jacksonville, and I know that it's a tragedy, but my kids are up here, and I wanna know what's going on up here.
So up to date,
Yeah.
real time, the arrest that I'm telling you about today, we haven't even released. We're typing up a media release, so that's actually more up to date than anything for you coming here. You're getting that in real time. But any arrest and major cases that we make will be updated on that portal, so you'll see them. So that's the first step. So
And can I
thank you.
count on that the area that we're gonna see a lot more police cars out? Because these people should not feel okay that in broad daylight they can just shoot people. What if a stray bullet hit somebody? I mean, let's think about this. Like so far it didn't happen, thank God. But what if it did? Someone else would be dead that's completely innocent. And then what do? Then we all stand up and we're all upset about it? That's too late. That's one family too late that lost someone that didn't have to get lost. So we really need to be on top of that. I really mean that. Like, I'm a teacher and I live in this area, and I really don't want to hear that one of my students got shot. And God forbid my children, because they were going to McDonald's. Like, it's not okay. So please, just make sure you're beefing things up and that we have the patrols out there so that no one feels they can come and just randomly shoot.
No, and you're exactly right. In patrols, we have a higher density of officers up here than our surrounding jurisdictions. But I can tell you that we'll continue to be here, and we'll be here full time. But no matter what, there's 1,000 officers, there's 400,000 citizens. We can't do it alone. We can't be everywhere. So if anybody has information, please do not hesitate to call. If you see a disturbance happening down the street, call us so we can get to it before it escalates. But absolutely, we will be here and we'll continue to be here, but we still need everyone's help and support.
Thank you for all you do. Thank you for making this meeting happen.
And I wanted to say something, if I may, really fast, which is, number one, if you look at the response of the people here, this is a big, big statement that New Tampa does not tolerate this kind of violent crime, that we support public safety, and that we support our police officers. This room is packed, and that's a godsend, but that's a real statement of solidarity with the 99.9% of folks in New Tampa. So number one, thank God for that. Number two, with regards to updates, so this is an initial meeting. I'm also going to have a town hall at the end of July to follow up on things, because I know that there's limited information now. I'll have something else in about a month or so.
Great.
So just to
Thank
let
you
you
very
know.
much.
Thank you, ma'am. And also, I mentioned him before, but Chief John Bennett's here. Jane Castor's chief of staff. Just wanted to acknowledge.
Warren Dixon. Knowing that the Julio Fulio killing was gang-related coming out of Jacksonville, where I'm from, those two gangs, ATK and KTA, which has killed them all, have been fighting and shooting each other in Jacksonville for a very long time, including in a very nice neighborhood where I grew up. My question is twofold. Are the other shootings that we've discussed gang-related? Are they related to this gang, or are they by themselves? And do we have a gang task force in the Tampa Police Department?
So I'll go in reverse order. Yes, we have a crime gun intelligence unit that actually investigates gangs and gun crimes, and we work very closely with our partners. And Jacksonville is concerned about retaliation, and the sheriff did a press conference today about that. And you know, hopefully that doesn't happen, but I can tell you that it's a full court press to prevent that from happening. No other crimes that we have at this point are tied to anything in Jacksonville other than that. But again, all these are ongoing and things could develop. But at this point, that's the only one that we have tied to is Jacksonville groups.
Thank you very much.
My name's Dave, and I moved to New Tampa 36 years ago, and at that time we had, yes, I moved here 36 years ago, and as part of our homeowners fees in Tampa Palms, we had a police officer and a dedicated phone number that we could call, and, you know, 24/7, and I know they probably had other officers that would use that same phone, but the money that we pay in our homeowners in the CDD, I was wondering if that is something that could come back, where we have a dedicated officer, that maybe one for Tampa Palms, one for Hunters Green, and that type of thing.
So I'll give that part to the captain and part to the councilman, but first, every neighborhood has a zone officer and a dedicated officer, but what you're probably talking about is above and beyond that, which is probably where the community hired an officer on their day off and provided a phone. And if that's what the community chooses to do, then they can. So I don't know if they stopped doing that and they wanted to start back up. That's something we can talk about offline. And they probably provided a phone for the officer to use in exchange. I am happy to report that working closely with our representative, Congresswoman Kathy Castor, she was able to provide us technology federal grant that's going to allow us to put more cell phones in the hands of officers. So even if they're not working in your neighborhood, assigned to that special area, we'll have more cell phones out there where you can still reach out to the officer. But let me hand that to the captain too.
The chief pretty much touched on it. It most likely was an extra duty assignment that allowed that officer to be dedicated to the community with a phone that you guys provided to him. If you want to get with me offline, I can connect you with the extra duty officer, so you'll bring that back if you don't have it.
Yeah, and what they said is correct, which is I know a lot of communities, I see people here from Corey Lake Isles, I know they've done that, and a lot of different communities done that. I'm always of the belief that we need to hire more police officers in the city of Tampa. We need more cops, we need more fire stations throughout all of our city. I believed in that so much that I did a political death wish by motioning to have a 0.3 millage increase. It would be a $4 on average per household millage increase. It's 100% dedicated to hire more cops and firefighters. So, and again, nobody likes asking for higher taxes, just ask Walter Mondale, but I would do it whenever it comes for cops. I know that's 40 years ago, I gotta update my joke, but I'll do it and I'll take that hit for cops and firefighters any day. Thank you.
Just to add on that, we also, yes. If you didn't hear, we got a grant for 30 additional officers from the federal. So that is huge because that is helping to save on your tax dollars. And we are filling those positions now. So I ask any one of you to share the word. If there's anybody that wants to apply for being a police officer, I'd much rather hire somebody that's from Tampa than somebody that's from New York. So if you have a family, a friend, a niece, a nephew that's interested, we will pay your way to go to the academy, and we'll pay you to go to the academy. And if you graduate, pass all the tests, we'll promote you to a police officer. All that is on our website. We are actively hiring. So please, if you get a chance, take a look at that and share that. Sir?
Okay. My name is Darnell Easton. Just so happens I retired from the police department in New York. Just did shy 26 years. I did just shy of 26 years. And anytime there was an incident, whether it was a shooting such as this, traffic related, we had a show of force. Where's our show of force? After that incident, it's crickets out there, and it's still crickets.
All right, good point. And we're here now, and that's why we're here and we're listening. And I appreciate your comments. And I'll tell you what, cops I know from New York are good, but I can tell you this, training to be a police officer is the easy part, is understanding the community. And if somebody was born and raised in a community, it's much easier to teach them how to be a cop in that area. It's not taken away from New York cop, that was only part of
Hi, my name is Stephanie. I have lived here in Tampa Palms for over 10 years. I've seen the community change. I'm very proud of what the city of Tampa is today. And I'm going to share a very brief anecdote with you, and then I have a question. So Councilman Viera knows this anecdote. I have shared this story with him. I have reached out to his office, and he provided support. My husband and I worked with Major Stout on this issue. And unfortunately, it was not 100% resolved, but it did resolve itself because this neighbor has since left the community. But I'm sharing this story because these instances they're not rare. They happen in Tampa Palms. They happen in this zip code all the time. They're just very hidden very well by the perpetrators who bring this crime into our community. For almost 3 years, my husband and my daughter, who's right here, lived a nightmare, and I'm going to share this nightmare with the community. Our prior neighbor, we live in a condo here in Tampa Palms, our prior upstairs neighbor was associated with lots of illegal activity. We had tons of videos. We shared that with Major Stout and other staff of that district office. And we worked with them, we met with them various times. They ended up doing a knock and talk, and that settled it down for quite some time. We had roll call right outside of our building for about a week, and that was fantastic. But of course, that illegal activity continued after roll call was gone and police presence was gone. And the information we provided, the videos we provided, did lead to an arrest of an associate of that prior neighbor. But my concern is, when my husband and I met with the office staff of District 2, it was almost like we were a nuisance to the district for bringing our concerns. That person was robbed at gunpoint. We were woken up in the middle of the night. Every night I was worried about my daughter and myself, and I should not live like that. And I just want to know how an officer can recommend that a citizen sell their property as a result to the problem, because there's only so much law enforcement can do. But I would like to know, how can I work with law enforcement, or how can anyone in here work with law enforcement if that's the attitude we're met with?
Thank you for those comments, and that shouldn't have happened, and I apologize. You can stay after, you can get my cell phone number and also the captain's, and we definitely want to connect you two so we can re-energize what was started with Major Stout, and having those phone numbers and reaching out. And if anybody is ever not treated with the utmost respect, then we would want to know about it right away, because we want to operate very effectively, but most important, that we treat all our officers to treat everybody with dignity and respect. And it's something that we talk to the officers about, because you can imagine if you're a patrol officer and you investigate 4 burglars a day, by the time you get to the 4th one, you start to get desensitized. And it's very traumatic to have your house broken into and somebody coming in, and we talk about that. And that's something that the officers can't forget, but oftentimes if they get repeated like that, they get desensitized. But understanding that and addressing those before they become big issues is what we want to do. So thank you.
From the beginning to the end, so just trust like the information is being processed, and we're trying to streamline it as quickly as possible. And when I seen the news report about the gun violence and stuff, in a sense, we kind of call those like media cases, where it's just like a big bang case and you see all the media come out. But at the same time, there's also other cases that, in a sense, almost take priority when you have solicitation to minors and you have like all these rape and molest charges, double homicides. So don't get just caught up on the fact of what you see, but there's a lot of stuff going on in the background with new hires. You have people retiring and stuff like that. Like, I understand, like, we want to be mindful of our children, but there's just so many different areas when it comes to, like, not just criminal violence, but civil violence. We start talking about people getting frauded out of their money, their homes and stuff. So it's spread across, and when officers, are thin and your clerks are thin, like, it takes a lot. And we're always pulling together. We're always having meetings together. They're creating new systems to streamline the process, so attorneys, law officers, attorneys, we can all get that information and get it out. So, the defendant can have their fair shot at the trial, and then a decision can be made. But it's not just somebody was murdered, because you have to take the right precautions to get it right as opposed to get it wrong. Because a lot of people, they go in, they violate the probation, and then the whole process starts over. So it's a lot of different things. Like, you see things about the DUI, and like there's just so many different crimes. And I'm telling you that because I see them in when they come in the queue. And we just had like almost 150 in our queue today, and we just cleaned it out. So we're working OT, we're working on weekends, and so on and so forth. So don't just get caught up in what you see is what I'm saying. The information is getting the process, we're trying to get it to the officers, go to the state attorney, and so on and so forth. But you guys just keep doing what you're doing, because it's extremely tough when it comes down to it. So I feel like people understand that, but it's a lot deeper than what they see, because the courts doesn't close and the law doesn't stop for anybody. It's continuous 24/7. So just, I don't want to say be patient, but we're going to get it done regardless, because it has to be done.
Thank you. I just want to add on, I appreciate those comments, but for me, being transparent is my priority as chief, and that's why we're adding all these other measures so you can be even more in tune. But to your point is, sometimes I'm torn with, I want to tell, but I also don't want to compromise the case. And what's most important is making the arrest and holding somebody accountable. So at times, if I can't release things, And it's part of the ongoing investigation. Trust me, I am always trying to find a way to release it, but most importantly, I want to be able to make that arrest. And we have those discussions every day. And unfortunately, sometimes with the active investigation, I just can't release it. But whenever we can, I can assure you that we will. And thank you for bringing that up.
Hi, I'm sorry, hold on to him because I'm having a vestibular migraine at the moment, so thanks to the weather. I'm Deb Norris. I'm Neighborhood Watch Coordinator for Grand Hampton. We're in the process of trying to get our Neighborhood Watch really up and running. My thoughts are, as a community, we know we have only so many resources that you have available to you, and we know that you're trying to get more police and more fire. And I recently had a friend that was in a car accident. She laid on the side of the road for 45 minutes waiting for an ambulance. And the fire people there said, you know, write your congressman or write your commissioners. What, as community members, would you want from the community to support your efforts? It's one thing to all of us be at this meeting, but what really should we be doing as community members to help keep ourselves safe and support you actively in a meaningful way?
A great question, and you're already doing it. You're in a neighborhood watch group and you're trying to expand it. If somebody's in here that's not in a neighborhood watch group, clearly you care about your communities, please stay afterwards. Jamel, where are you? You can see Jamel afterwards. Corporal Brown, are you around? Corporal Brown is back in the back. Wave your hand. See Corporal Brown. Also Captain Kamat. We will get you connected with them. That's the first step. And I said it before, there's only 1,000 officers, there's 400,000 citizens, and that's what prevents crimes and solves crimes. So that you're already there. Just continue to grow that neighborhood watch group and be as engaged as you can with us. Thank you.
And thank you for your question and all your work in Grand Hampton. And I would say another thing is to be involved in the political process. That is so important on a municipal government, city government, Hillsborough County government, state rep, etc. And make sure that all your elected officials, whether they're a Republican or a Democrat, understand the importance of public safety. The public safety is issue number one here in the city of Tampa. That's especially true for New Tampa with fire response times, police officer issues, etc. And that, well, I could talk forever, but just support that. Be involved. And by the way, New Tampa, vote in city elections. Please. I need that, please.
So my last question to that, when my friend was in this situation and waiting for them, we were told they were about 20 fire stations behind in relation to the growth of these counties here. Where are we with our police presence? How far behind are we now in terms of the staffing?
Actually, we are getting to full staffing. We're trying to hire the 30 additional grant officers. We do have some retirees, but my goal is to fill those 30 officers within a year. When a new police officer comes on, it takes anywhere from a year to a year and a half to get them on the street by themselves. So police academy starts at 6 months, then we have internal training and field training. So it's not like I can flip a switch and just have 30 officers on the street. And that's okay, because we want our officers to be trained and be professional. And we have some of the best trained officers here. I have some of the greatest detectives that are coming up with unbelievable ways to solve these crimes. So it takes patience, but it also takes us continuing and planning ahead, and that's what we do. We do that very well. But if there's anybody that you know that is interested, I'll take a police officer from New York, but I also want officers from Tampa too. Okay?
Yeah. And do you think 1,030 police officers is a fully staffed police force for this number of people living in Hillsborough County?
At this point, I do. If the city continues to grow, then we'll continue to grow with the city. The average, national average is 2.4 officers for every 1,000, and we are at that average, and we're going to continue to grow to stay at that average. If the city continues to grow, then we will continue to grow. If the city starts to go scale back, then we will. But I can tell you that we're nowhere near in the situation that other big cities are.
Yeah,
There are cities,
California, sorry.
yeah, there's cities that are short hundreds of officers.
Yeah.
And fortunately, our mayor was good. She never cut any of our officers. She told us to continue hiring. And for that reason, we're not in the position that some of the other major cities are.
Okay, thanks.
There's really And if I may, and really fast, remember, I think some of the things you were talking about with the county, there's 1.6 million people. I think in Hillsborough County, there's 400,000 in the city of Tampa, so just different issues there. And something that Chief Bercaw said is very, very true. I was in Portland, Oregon, 2 years ago, and thank God the problems that they have there, we don't have here because city of Tampa supports our police officers and public safety. Thank God.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Bercaw, Hunters Green, born and raised Tampa Bay resident. Moved out here to New Tampa about 6, 7 years ago. I'm gonna ask you a question. I don't know if you can answer. I hope you can. I think a lot of us want to know the 2 incidences that did happen in Hillsborough County and Tampa PD. So I know they're 2 jurisdictions, but are you currently operating underneath the belief that they're related incidences or completely separate?
So I don't say too much and ruin the case. I'm going to hand that to the major, and he'll take care of it.
So not only do we believe that none of these incidents that have happened up here are random, we don't think any of them are related at this point. I mean, could that change? Potentially, but at this point, there's no evidence to suggest anything's related.
Gotcha. Fantastic. And then I will say, for work, I travel the country and the globe. I go to almost every major city in the United States and some larger ones outside the country. Tampa is one of the safer cities I've ever been in. I am home and grown, so I do have a little hometown favorite there, but we do appreciate everything you guys are doing. And Louis, thank you for putting this together.
How you doing?
Okay.
Let's know me already. First of all, for your question, answer, you said shot spotters cost too much money. Safety shouldn't have a price. I'm saying they should be able to buy them everywhere. Number 2, my son was murdered almost 3 years ago. You know who I am? You know who I am? Tampa PD haven't given me no information on nothing that's going on. This is my son. No answers from Tampa PD. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, and any loss of life is too much. If you want to stay after and speak to the major, we'll be happy to speak with you about your case.
Good evening. My name is...
And just 1 second, if I may, I wanted to speak, Manuel, I know him, he's a friend of mine and a really good guy. His son, Najee, was murdered, and that's what we were talking about, ShotSpotter. That's why I voted for ShotSpotter, because of people like Manuel Viera who have lost loved ones to crime, to violent crime. I will never, ever, ever back down on that because of the courage it just took that man to come up here. Never.
Good evening. My name is Mona Judge, and I've lived in this area for over 27 years. And I've seen it grow, and I still love it. But the last incident on Busby Downs, it scared me a little because my daughter now is driving. I'm from East Tampa, and when everything was happening in East Tampa, I kept saying to myself, okay, I don't want you in this area after a certain time. But this at 2:30 in the afternoon, we're not safe, and we understand that you guys, officers, the chief, you guys are doing it. So my question is, I don't know how you prevent this. You can't really prevent what someone is intending to do, but what can we put in place? Like Dave said, I watched the city council on Thursday, and I wasn't too in favor of ShotSpotter. But now, after that, and then I did some research, because don't they have cameras? I don't understand how the bank don't have cameras. Maybe we need to partner down Busby Downs or something, and making sure all public places, even in our neighborhoods, there are cameras, because you're not going to be able to stop what happened, but you should be able to get the car, get the people immediately, and stop that. But you guys are doing a great job. It's a lot that we want. Thank you.
And you said a point I want to just add on is what can you do? And responsible gun ownership is paramount. I just want to read you some statistics from a recent study from the National Police Institute. And it says the primary source of stolen firearms is theft, and it's from private citizens' cars and houses. We have gun locks. We've brought some here. If you have a gun and you don't have a gun lock, please take one before you leave. Please don't leave it in your car, and please don't leave your car unlocked. In 2022, and this is nationwide from the study, 77,000 firearms were stolen and about half of those were stolen from cars. Last year, we had 200 guns, roughly, stolen from unlocked cars. So those guns typically get in the wrong hands. So that's something that we can all do, is secure our firearms. So if you know anybody, obviously you're all here and you're good stewards, but if you know somebody that doesn't secure their firearm or leaves it in their car, grab a gun lock on the way back.
Well, let me piggyback off that because I have an issue with that. In my neighborhood, like I said, I've been there over 26 years. Really no big crime, you know. Kids sometimes have, one time was breaking into houses, but they always break into unlocked cars. And so I suggested a tea and conversation, if you are a gun owner and you keep it in the car, it is our responsibility to keep that glove compartment locked. And if they take it out the car and the glove compartment wasn't broken, shouldn't you charge the gun owner if a crime is done? And that way we have to be able to, if you're going to be a gun owner, you have to be responsible. And when we hear these biking forwards in East Tampa, when you guys come out, Chief, you're always, not always, but you're saying that most of these guns are stolen. And I'm like, how is that possible? Where is a 13, 14, 15-year-old getting a gun? And you say they're getting them out of cars. Then we got to do something. See, we have to do something about that. We have to hold the gun owners responsible for their guns. Thank you.
And I just want to add on that point, is you're exactly right, and the councilman talked about it before. There was a House bill up in Tallahassee just doing that, and unfortunately it didn't make it far, but the councilman wants to add on that.
Sure. Yeah, and I appreciate Mona's comments. And you know, again, I always say when it comes to crime here in Tampa, we have to have an all of the above approach, which is we need to be tough on violent crime. That is so important. Again, when you look at a lot of what's happened in the last few years with folks saying, hey, look, we can cut our cops, we can disrespect our cops, we can throw rocks at our cops, etc. We know what's going to happen when we do that. We have to have a certain sense of moral rightness whenever it comes to violent crime, but we also have to be tough on the causes of violent crime, etc. That's very important. That means being smart on summer youth programs, being smart on our youth, taking a look at returning citizens, right? A whole bunch of different things that we can do to prevent crime. Those are the things that I'm committed to, and I think those are the things that virtually everyone in this room are committed to.
Hi, my name's Tina. I live in Pebble Creek. So when the news came out on Monday of the first shooting, we were shocked. I have an 8-year-old son and a 6-year-old son. And the first thought was, it's the middle of the afternoon, what if we were on a walk? What if we witnessed it? What if we were there while it was happening? I was scared. And the news came out that there was no immediate threat to the community, you're safe, we can assure you of that. I heard the words and I wanted to believe it, right? But I'm not gonna lie, Tuesday, didn't really want to go too far from the house. We swam in the backyard. We didn't feel safe leaving. Hearing the news then on Friday of another stoplight over, another shooting that involved a car, very similar sounding story, and then a few hours later or before, I can't keep track anymore, of a decomposed body being found, now I'm really scared, right? I'm thinking, how can I keep my children protected? And I don't feel like I can, and that's this very scary feeling. And then you hear on Sunday morning, another shooting, someone in their car. So all of these things that sound so similar, but they're not related. And there are people coming into our community, they're not from our community, but it's happening in our community. The shooting that happened on Sunday, that's too close to home. The shooting that happened outside of my neighborhood, that's way too close to home. So my question is, I hear you're going to say the police presence is going to be up, and I wanted to believe it. I can't lie, I haven't seen it. I don't see it, so how do I feel safe? I feel like I could protect us in our home. I feel safe at home. So when we leave, if he wants to go get Twisty Treat, I can't comfortably sit in the parking lot because there might be a shooting. I don't want him to witness it. I don't want to, someone else mentioned, I don't want to get in the crossfire. So how can we make sure we can keep our children safe? How can we make sure that what is coming to our community stops coming to our community? My feedback, I don't even know where the question is in all of this because a lot of it is, the thoughts that have come through my mind throughout the week, right? We're hearing the news that is coming to our community. We're hearing the news that it's not related. But what are we supposed to believe? How am I, the news has been so limited all week. How am I supposed to know? Is it drugs? Is it gang? Is it connected? Were all of these connected? Were they not? What happened to the body found in the field? None of it makes sense, so the only thing that does when you're not getting information is induce fear. And I know that there's investigations, and I have family in law enforcement, so I do understand, but it doesn't take away the fact that there's hundreds, if not thousands of families, with or without children, that feel the fear because the information isn't there. We don't have the answers. So how do we make it stop coming to our community? Really, I mean, one time, I mean, we should still be talking about what happened on Monday, let alone what happened on Friday, and then on Sunday. So how do we stop this coming from our community, and why is it coming to our community?
So thank you for your comments, and I'll tell you, we wouldn't be here if we didn't care. We feel the exact same way. Your community is our community, and this is the first step. And if you're not involved in a neighborhood watch, I would ask you to stay and get involved in a neighborhood watch. And we're answering some of those questions here today about how they're not related, and we're telling you directly to you. So I would ask that you listen to us and take our feedback. There's times in investigations where things that we just don't know yet, but what we do know is they're not related. We've told you that. We do know that certain cases have made arrests right away. So, and again, there's information that I want to tell you all, but it's more important to me to make that arrest and hold that person accountable, and as soon as we can share that, we will. If you're not signed up, please sign up for our media alerts, and please get involved. But if you could stay after and speak to the captain, or you can speak to Jamel, we'd love to get you more engaged and try to get that information to you more in real time. But thank you for showing up, and we do care, we do sympathize, and if we didn't mean it and we didn't really feel that way, then we wouldn't be here in this meeting tonight.
In your opinion, why do you think it's coming to our community? Like, I mean, multiple times in 1 week.
Yeah, sure.
What do you think is drawing it into the new Tampa area?
Now, I'll let Deputy Chief Johnson expand upon it, but this isn't a Tampa issue, it's a nationwide issue. There's a gun issue across the entire nation. There's more guns available, they're getting into the wrong hands. And holding people accountable that are owners, we've talked about that before, people that are letting guns get into the wrong hands, and being aggressive and following up on these cases. And I'll let Deputy Chief Johnson finish.
Good evening. That is, I don't want to say it's a trick question, but it's one that's not easily answered. I'm born and raised in Tampa. I used to work at USAA when it first got put over there. Tampa Palms has grown a whole lot. It's very safe over here. I don't want to take away from what's been occurring, but what you got to understand is this. People who want to get involved in crime, they don't want to be on the radar. So what they do, they go to a safe place. But they make their mistake by getting on social media. They let folks know where they're going to. They can also track each other. So that happens all the time, not just in Tampa Palms. I don't want you to think that there's nothing that's not being done. I heard the New York PD officer saying in New York they have all the officers going there in uniform when something occurs. It's kind of different in Tampa Palms. It's a neighborhood. You don't want 100 cops out here 24 hours a day. What I can tell you happened immediately after these shootings, you had detectives who were in plain clothes going to every house, every door cam, every business, any video that we can get to hold folks accountable. It is, folks are not afraid to commit crime when the police are around. What they are afraid of is getting 10 years, 20 years in prison. The most important part of these cases is we get the evidence to send somebody to prison for 15 or 20 years. And that is going to be the only way to reduce some of these crimes that are occurring from folks who are from outside of Hillsborough County. They left Jacksonville for a reason, because they didn't think that folks in Jacksonville would come down here. So what I want to say is this, it's very safe over here. Things occur, things happen. Tampa Police Department, along with the Sheriff's Department, we partner very well. What we do need from the community is to always be vigilant. My own car, my own front yard got burglarized 2 weeks ago. I look at my video camera, I see the young man trying to get in. I know they're looking for guns. We're not immune to it. We called the Sheriff's Department, they arrested 2 young men, and we're gonna hold them accountable. any opportunity they can get to make you a victim, they're going to take. You have to fight back by making sure your cameras are working. If you own a business, make sure you have cameras. If you own a gun, make sure you secure it. If you have kids who are teenagers, know who they're hanging with, know who they're associating with. But the most important thing is to look out after each one. Because if you're in your neighborhood and you don't know your neighbors, understand that when you got these subjects out here trying to find opportunities, they're looking for communities that don't communicate with each other. They take advantage of that.
Thank you.
Thank you. If we have a line. I can take one more, if we have one more, because it looks like, let's take one more, because we have to be out of this room, and we're supposed to be out, but I'll go a little bit longer, and we'll take one more. She's there.
I just wanted to know if the first shooting was the sheriff's office investigation. Why is the sheriff's office not here anymore?
So, good question. We're speaking very well with them. We have crime meetings daily on that, so they're working closely with us, even though they couldn't be here tonight. And then yours?
Thanks, even though the mic was taken from me. My name is Angela. I lived in Lake Community a while. I've been a teacher with Hillsborough County for about 4 years. I taught in Philly before that. I teach off of 50th Street down in Tampa. I taught back behind Busch Gardens. So I'm unfortunately a little bit jaded to all these things. We have to do active shooter drills every single month. So honestly, your teachers, your children, you guys were not surprised that any of this has happened. So I just want to make that clear. So sorry, I get really nervous and passionate about it. But I do want to ask that everyone here, we have a necessity to use our voice and to use it in a positive way. That means when we are voting, when we are asking for rights for ourselves, we're also voting and asking for these things to be allowed for other people too. So we want to remember that, so that's just what I'm calling on everyone to say that. Thank you guys for giving me the time. The ways that we can prevent this from happening is teach your children compassion for everybody, please. Volunteer in the schools, and not just our beautiful fluffy schools up here, volunteer everywhere else, because these shooters, these criminals, and these drug dealers, they were children, they were students, and it maybe could have been prevented if we had more mental health in the schools, we had more appreciation for the teachers, we had all the funds that we needed. So I appreciate it. I just had to call on my community and say, please, you're not just voting to protect your own family, you're voting to allow these guns everywhere. So just please remember that when the time comes. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. What a great way to end with care and compassion and focusing on the next generation. Thank you. So before we end, I'll let Councilman Viera speak, but just because we're ending the formal part doesn't mean the informal part doesn't continue. Please approach any one of us, scan your QR code. Councilman Viera.
Thank you, Chief. And I wanted to thank everybody for coming here tonight. So a couple of quick things. One thing, we were talking about holding people accountable, also hold elected officials accountable. I mean that. That is something that is so important for public safety issues. Always remind people of that. Again, I'll be having a follow-up town hall towards the end of July to discuss some follow-up with this, etc. And I know there's a lot of HOA folks. Please invite me to your HOA if I haven't been there. Odds are I've been there a few times, right? But please invite me to your HOA to discuss this issue. I'll be staying here and I'll speak with everybody because I know we had a ton of people. If I have to stay here until 10 o'clock or whatever to speak to everybody, I'm more than happy to do it. Thank you guys so much. I wanted to thank Tampa Police Department for all their work. Let's give them a round of applause. It's not easy being a cop. In the last 4 years, it's been hell. So thank you guys so much. God bless you.
Thank you. Thanks for everybody coming out. We appreciate it.
Rich, nice to meet you. Rich Brady. All the best.